This is Ben, and you're watching Million Year Picnic. Hey, excuse me, Kara? Who are you?
Well, I think you a little bit ruined it, but I'm Kara. I'm part of Millionaire Picnic, and I don't have anything else to say.
What's that? Is that a soft sci-fi book club?
Yes, it's the softest sci-fi book club in existence.
What's soft sci-fi?
I think soft sci-fi is maybe not so focused on the technical aspects, but it adds, it's got a lot of like human elements in it. We follow a lot of social dramas, a lot of philosophy rather than, hard, technical, sci-fi type stuff.
That sounds really cool.
It is. It's extremely cool.
What's your favorite soft sci-fi book that you've read?
I would say Dawn by Octavia Butler. Definitely, top 5. Maybe of all time that I've read.
Who's Octavia Butler, and what do you know anything interesting about her?
So she was a black sci-fi author, a black female sci-fi author. She was really super cool. She lived in California. A lot of her works, most of her works were set in California. She was from Pasadena, I believe. She died pretty young. She was only 58. She died in 2006. And she died actually outside of her house. Her health wasn't amazing. There's some conflicting accounts of her death. Some people think she had a stroke and died that way. Other people think she fell and hit her head and she died that way. But either way, it's pretty tragic. Her last book was published in 2005, which was fledgling, and she just didn't get a chance to write anything else after that.
Where was she living when she wrote Dawn?
She was definitely in Pasadena, or somewhere around there. And this is actually, yikes, one of her few novels that isn't set in the area, in LA or California.
Where's it set?
Mainly on a alien spaceship. Mainly.
Where's the alien spaceship?
In space.
Cool. What year was it written?
Well, it was published in 1987. I'm sure she was working on it throughout the 80s, but 87 is when it came out.
What's the most interesting thing you know about 1987?
I'm not really a fan of the 80s as a decade. I think American culture was not great at that time. It was a lot of Gordon Gekko, American Psycho, corporate, a lot of advertising, very cold, austere, white, bad fashion, bad hair, bad makeup, bad music. Really not my bag. So the coolest thing to come out of that year was this book, probably.
And what's it about anyway?
So you can definitely see the anxieties of the time, because Russia and the US essentially blow up the world. They have nuclear war, and an alien people pluck the last humans from Earth, put them on a ship, and 250 years in the future, they wake up Lilith Ayapo, who is a black woman, and she is chosen to essentially wake up the other humans that are left and go back to Earth and start life anew. But they don't have any technology or anything. They have to live really, really rough, rudimentary tools, and they have to farm their food, and learn about plants and learn about animals. There's no modern technology whatsoever.
Can you think of like 3 things that this book reminded you of, whether thematically or tonally or something, like any sort of like music or movies or other books or, you get the idea. People even.
So I kind of think of like someone like FKA Twigs, who is...
FKA Twigs is the first one.
Yes. She is, she does like really weird kind of stripped down R&B. I don't know what else to call it. It's not really R&B, but it's kind of R&B. And she looks like an alien herself. Like, she's like beautiful but weird looking, and she's really cool, and she makes music that's not, I don't know, it's not quite normal. It's like a drum beat and some like really kind of stripped down melody, and she just has this kind of warbly voice. I'm really selling FKA Twigs here. I know, I get it. She's also a dancer, like an amazing dancer.
So FKA Twigs is the first one. Is there another? Anything else that remind you of?
It does remind me of...
You have 2 left.
The third book in another Octavia Butler series. And I will really only say that it reminds me of this book in particular because it involves aliens. It involves like an invading species coming to Earth and changing humanity, essentially.
Rad. Anything else? Did you find it to be like derivative or referential? Or did you find it to be like, were you actually thinking of other things when you read it? Or is it like you're looking back and you can like draw connections to other things? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like sometimes you read something and you picture like this particular actor in something where you're like, oh, this reminds me of blah, 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 whatever. I don't know.
So, honestly, it's one of the weirdest things I've ever read. So it doesn't really remind me of anything. It's like, so I didn't even talk about the aliens yet. I only told you about the human aspect of this book, but these aliens that pluck these humans off of Earth are super weird to the point where they are disturbing to the humans. Humans are so scared of them, and they have to introduce themselves slowly because they have gray skin and they have these sensory tentacles like all over their bodies. They have a totally different idea of what kinship is. Like, there are 3 adults in a partnership. There's a male, a female, and a third sex that I can't remember the name of right now, but yeah, male, female, and then uloi, that's the third sex. Totally made up word, obviously. So very, very bizarre. The way they have sex too is not physical. It's entirely sensory, and it's a male and a female and an uloi, and the uloi connects their like neural pathways, and they experience pleasure, and they see colors that don't even exist. It's really, really crazy. But the kind of flip side to that is the humans can't have any physical contact after that. After they have sex in this way, they can't touch each other anymore, and they don't like that. They hate that, even though, and they're stuck with this kind of like dilemma because they enjoy this pleasurable experience so much. It's not messy, it's not sweaty, it requires no exertion. They just have to lay back and enjoy it. But the flip side is they lose physical intimacy. So yeah, really interesting, really weird. Never read or experienced anything like it. So yes, when I think back, that's when I made connections, not while I was reading it.
So pretend that I don't like sci-fi. Why should I read Dawn by Octavia Butler?
Well, first of all, the main character is a black woman, and that is entirely too rare. Literature is overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly male, and it is important to get a different person's perspective and not make it about race. She's just a person. She's just a character. They hardly even mention what she looks like, and maybe halfway through the book they talk about her dark skin and broad cheekbones or whatever. But I will say that race is kind of part of it in a not overt way, because she has trouble with the other humans, particularly one character who is a former cop, and I don't think that was an accident. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons you should read it. I think, again, it's just such a unique and imaginative novel. Like, guarantee you've never read anything like it. You've never read anything so weird in your life. You don't know where it's going. You have no idea where it's going to end up. And also, it's just, I really think Octavia Butler was able to capture the essence of humanity. And as much as it's about aliens and being on a spaceship and learning to survive in a world that you don't know anymore, it's about humans and human relationships and the way we interact with one another, the way we interact with one another in extremely stressful situations that are totally unfamiliar. So yeah, highly recommend.
All right, so you've convinced me to read it. Now I've gone to the store and I've bought maybe a very cool used copy of Dawn, maybe a new one. Let's say it's a cool old one.
Or a Kindle version, like the kind that I buy, because I read on my phone.
Okay, but you have your Kindle version, and I've bought my copy, and now I'm going to the park and I'm sitting down to read it. But as I'm sitting down to read it, you get a call on your phone, and it's like a terrorist organization, and they're gonna blow up all the kindergartens in America if I start reading Dawn, and you need to talk me out of reading Dawn. Can you talk me out of reading Dawn by Octavia Butler and save the children?
No, blow up the children. I'm just kidding. So I will say...
You heard it here first.
I will say that it's definitely violent. It definitely explores the worst parts of humanity. It's not a pretty book. It's more about struggle. That's like the main theme, struggle. It's one of the main themes, I would say, struggle. And yeah, nothing like really super goes right or according to plan. It's pretty intense, and it's about humans not getting along. Lilith almost gets raped. She's left alone with another human while she's still on the ship, and he just he got taken when he was like 14, and they woke him up a while ago. He had never had sex before, and he moves to rape her almost immediately, and it's pretty fucked up. But I gotta say, it seems very realistic at the same time. So yeah, it's a tough one. You kind of gotta have a strong stomach, and you can't really like happy endings.
But there is a happy ending. You talked me out of reading it. And disaster's been averted.
No dead children.
Which character did you most identify with in Dawn by Octavia Butler?
I mean, it sounds cliche to say the protagonist, but probably the protagonist.
Do you always find yourself relating to the protagonist?
Fuck no. What did I say earlier? Literature is overwhelmingly white. It's overwhelmingly male. So, reading something like Butler, whose protagonists are basically always black females, yeah, I'm able to relate to it a lot harder. And besides that...
Cliche averted.
Yes, exactly. It's not a cliche. She is the type of person who doesn't really care if people like her or not. She knows that she has a job to do, and she wants to do it well. And I totally relate to that. She's kind of like a born leader, and that's why she's picked for this task, to awaken the rest of the humans and train them. And yeah, she's not like necessarily the easiest personality to get along with, but she's logical, she's methodical, she thinks through situations, she thinks more with her head than her heart, and that is like me. Logical to a fault sometimes, can get me in trouble sometimes. So I really very much identify with that and with her.
So you like the protagonist. Who did you dislike the most in the book?
I mentioned him earlier, but probably Kurt, the former cop. He is extremely antagonistic for basically no reason. You can tell that he never gets on with Lilith. He never even respects her in the same way that the others do. Like, the others don't like her necessarily, but they at least respect her and fear her a little bit. And he, like, won't even submit to those feelings. He can't stand her, and I don't think it was an accident that he was a cop.
How soft is the sci-fi in this soft sci-fi novel?
So I guess this is such a question that's up for debate, because I'm sure certain people would say that it's extremely soft. There's no technical sci-fi. Just because they're in space and there's aliens doesn't make it a real sci-fi book.
There's genetics, right?
There is. That's true. There is very much genetics. There's very much like the Oankali, that's the aliens. They're a super advanced race, and they heal things like medically. It seems like magic, but they're just so advanced and they're like totally alien. So they're able to like do, I don't know, crazy shit. Their spaceship is like, it's not even like made out of metal or mechanics. It's a living, breathing creature. So anyway,
sounds like a pretty soft spaceship.
Yeah, yes, the walls are living. In order to open them, you have to rub your hands across them, and you get like, not everyone can do it. You have to be given like a certain gene, like a gene has to be injected into your body, and you're able to do it. So okay, that's such a mix of like hard and soft, you know, because they talk about genetics and like pheromones essentially, which allows you to control things on the ship. But then also like, it's not like it's, you know, hard in the way they talk about the mechanics of it all, of obtaining this specific pheromone. So I don't know, maybe like 5. It's like such a blend of hard and soft. It's such a blend. There's a lot of philosophy, a lot of humanity in there. But you know, they're on a fucking spaceship in outer space for most of it. It's an alien race.
Tip to aspiring soft sci-fi authors: if you make the spaceship itself soft, you can get yourself into the soft sci-fi zone.
Yes.
So it's a good little default trick.
You're in our club if you make your spaceship soft. If you make it a creature as opposed to like metal.
You're a tough critic. Using a rating system of your choice, rate this book on a scale of whatever you want to whatever you want.
So I'm just gonna go with like simple classic rating system. We'll do 1 out of 10. Honestly, like 9.5. I seriously love this book. It's actually a part of a series. I've read the series like maybe 3 times at this point. It's very good, very weird. I like aliens. What can I say? I like an intelligent, weirdo, sensory organ, 3 gender having alien book. What can I say?
Damn straight. If you could ask the rest of the book club, or anyone else that's read Dawn, one question about Dawn by Octavia Butler, what would it be?
I would ask if you're interested in continuing and seeing what happens next to Lilith's brood and her people, because it ends with them on Earth. Something bad happens, I won't say, but something very, very terrible happens, and do you want to know the fallout of that? Do you want to know how the humans cope after they finally make it to planet Earth.
You've read the whole series?
Multiple times, yes.
Is there a book on your to-read list right now that you'd like to read with the Soft Sci-Fi Book Club?
Yeah, so I recently read this Harlan Ellison book called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And it's a book of short stories. I love short stories because low-key my attention span is shot at this point. And anyway, it was published in the 60s, but it ages really, really well. And what's cool about this is the author's voice is in the book itself. Before each story, he has a little intro. And sometimes the intro, like the last word of the sentence, will be the title of the next story. It's very, very cool. I thought it was really, really like interesting. I really like to get the author's insights. I know art and media is like supposed to be up for interpretation, blah, 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 blah. You can interpret it however you want, get whatever you want out of it, but I do like hearing the author's voice themselves because, yeah, it's cool to know what they were actually thinking. So anyway, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Really good, pretty fucking creepy. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks for all this wonderful information about Dawn by Octavia Butler. I have one last question. Looking into the future, what do you see? What does the future hold?
I'm pretty... Wait. Like, of our world?
In 5 words or less.
Let's see. Bleak catastrophe. The ocean's boiling us all.
Awesome.
Sorry. I'm depressing.
Well, thanks so much. And thanks for watching Million Year Picnic with Kara and Ben. And we don't have a name for this segment yet. We'll call it My Tripod's Tired. Million Year Picnic, signing off.